Hello, everyone, and welcome to my office. And thank you for joining me here today at ICML, the International Council for Machinery Lubrication, where I am the marketing manager, Paul Hiller. I'm going to spend the next few minutes helping you with the ICML 55 standard, specifically part one of that standard, ICML 55.1. We'll talk about why it exists at all and how to use it to its fullest potential. Now, you decided to watch this video because maybe you've already got part one, or maybe you're just thinking about getting it, but maybe you've already thumbed through it and don't know exactly what to do with all that. So you've just been putting it off for a while so that you could just focus on random improvements at your plant, the stuff everyone likes to call low-hanging fruit. Well, blow off the dust, because when we're done here, you should feel comfortable about the standard and have a better idea of how to use it to start pursuing your broader lubrication objectives in an organized, orderly fashion. What we're really talking about here, of course, is industrial asset management. Not a new topic, but it's been around a long time, where successful programs balance the level of effort applied to machinery maintenance with the expected future benefits of that maintenance. And in 2019, a standardized process finally became available that would define the appropriate implementation strategy specifically for lubricated equipment. And that is the ICML 55.1 standard. Nothing worse than buying something and not knowing how to use it, right? Well, maybe it could be worse if you think you know how to use it, and whatever it is you just bought, you wind up using it and doing it all wrong and getting frustrated. I could share every detailed page of the standard in this presentation. I could thumb through here and you get all excited because you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get all the sneaky details and write it down and take screenshots and all that. But doing that action alone, sharing all that detail with you, it still wouldn't help audience members here glean what's relevant to help their respective situations. Believe it or not, the ICML 55.1 actually does come with instructions. It's at the first part of the book. So this short presentation will help you understand those instructions and place the ICML 55.1 in proper context as you consider plans for your own lubricated asset management. So how does this work? Well, we're going to be looking at some general questions first, like who is ICML, and what is ICML 55.1 requirement standard anyway, and what is it not? What's in it? And we're going to talk about why to use this at all. Can't you just find all this stuff on the internet? And how would you actually apply what's in the standard? We talk a little bit about the Plan, Do, Check, Act system. So you may also be asking yourself, why does ICML, a certification body, even offer a standard like this? Well, let's take a quick look at who is ICML. ICML, of course, is a vendor-neutral, not-for-profit organization founded to serve global industry as the world-class authority on machinery lubrication. But we're more than just certifications. Although that's our most well-known activity, we do support individuals and organizations through several programs that strengthen machinery lubrication and oil analysis as technical fields of endeavor. We are, of course, a certification body, like I said. We are also an awards body, a membership body, and a standards body. So we're not going to go to all the detail here. You can get on our website and read about our different certifications for machine lubricant analysts, machinery lubrication technicians, laboratory lubricant analysts, and the big one, machinery lubrication engineer, plus our new badge programs with Varnish. And our awards, of course, the Augustus H. Gill Award for Oil Analysis Excellence and the John R. Battle Award for Lubrication Excellence. Those are issued annually to physical facilities and plants, not to individuals, plants that have successful programs in place. And then, of course, the ICML 55. Standard, what we're going to be talking about here today. The standard supports our mission because it helps any company that's got a large base of machinery assets, whether mobile or fixed. It helps the company know that they're doing all they could possibly be doing to develop and or improve a lubricated asset management program. It kind of takes the guesswork out of it. And this, of course, helps our certified practitioners because, hey, more opportunities for them, right? So here's how it all came about. ICML 55 was basically born out of necessity. In 2014, the International Organization for Standardization, the ISO, introduced the ISO 55000 Asset Management Standard, and that comprised 3 documents to address the consistent application of industrial asset maintenance on assets of any kind, intangible, physical, financial, and more. Now, these documents were quite general in nature, but they contained important principles that could be used to develop targeted application of their requirements. For instance, targeting lubricated machinery, right? So in response, ICML developed a lubrication standard patterned on the ISO 55000. Now, the first part of the standard is ICML 55.1. Requirements for the optimized lubrication of mechanical physical assets, with contributions from 45 recognized industry experts from all over the world. 55.1 lays out a comprehensive tactical framework for organizations to establish, implement, maintain, and improve consistent lubrication management systems and activities while working toward their ISO 55000 certification. Or not. The company doesn't have to be pursuing ISO 55000 to at least apply the ICML 55.1 standard to its machinery lubrication program and get all beefed up there. This is, of course, an enabling standard. It serves as the missing link between ISO 55000 generalities and the specifics of your plant's lubrication plan. 55.1 replicates the structure, but focuses on the verbiage to what will be practically necessary for lubricated assets. So here's some more questions that you might be asking, because I've been talking an awful lot. What's in the ICML 55.1 standard? And is this a do-it-yourself thing, if we're so inclined, or do we have to hire somebody? Why use it at all? Can't I just Google all this? And if I decide to use this standard, what's next? How do I actually make it work? And these are all important questions because you want a return on investment from your purchase, right? So, like I said, it's patterned after ISO 55000. The ICML 55 is 3 documents. The 55.1 requirements document, the 55.2 guideline document, and 55.3, which is the auditor's manual. That'll spell out how an auditor can become competent to go out and confirm compliance with the ICML 55. Now, ICML 55.1 is the only one that's been published so far. 55.2 is scheduled for publication in 2022. So as a requirements document, 55.1 spells out what's necessary to establish, implement, maintain, and improve consistent management of the lubricated mechanical assets. Like I said, it was co-authored by a team of 45 people, but most importantly, it defines the 12 areas that are necessary for a successful, sustainable program. Now, it's meant to be used in conjunction with 55.2, the guideline document, but we didn't need to wait and publish them together. That's why we went ahead and did part 1 in 2019, spring of 2019. It was 2.5 years ago already. Because as you're going to see in the next few minutes, there's a lot of preparation work that goes into getting everything up to speed at your facility to develop the plan. And then 55.2 will help explain how to implement the plan once it's in place. So it's not a list of actions to take, it's rather a critical framework for decision making to basically set you up for success. Now, what is ICML 55.1 not? Well, it's not an isolated solution, aside from being intended for use in conjunction with 55.2. And like I already described, it's an enabling standard to help you on your journey for ISO 55,000 certification. So it's not meant to be used in a vacuum by any means. It doesn't replace or compete with the ISO documents, but it's not some sort of a standalone how-to manual. Like I said, the requirements document defines what to do, not how to do it. And it's going to present a lot of content that you might not think of on your own. So in that sense, it's a comprehensive, everything all in one place framework of what to pay attention to. And then the guideline document will explain how to do it. 55.1 is not a substitute for the hiring of certified practitioners. This is not the kind of document you can just hand to somebody and say, go forth and develop a program. I mean, it certainly would help, but this isn't meant to replace the preference for having certified practitioners on your team that can hit the ground running. The document is not a mind reader. What that means is you have to do the work to assess your circumstances and identify your priorities and limitations while setting your business goals, ideally as part of a larger organizational asset management plan. The ICML 55.1 standard does not know what your priorities and what your situation and circumstances and budget, all that. It doesn't know any of that stuff. That's what you have to bring to the table. Similarly, then, it's not a haphazard list of best practices. The document is structured with purpose, and that is a huge deal. So what are those 12 areas I was talking about? Well, this is the meatiest part of the structure right here. Look at all these areas. The 12 interrelated areas for a successful, sustainable, lubricated asset management strategy. Let's scroll through in a little more detail. We don't really have time to go into all this, but you can read more about it on our website. Area 1, high-level skills, deals with personnel and training and certifications, of course. Machine section, the design and accessibility of the lubrication activity and the use of monitoring technology. Area 3, lubricant design and selection. Those are quite related, areas 2 and 3. Lubricant scheduling and maintenance for area 4. Area 5 is the support facilities and tools. That includes the storage, the lube room, and various support materials. Area 6 is inspection, so monitoring and safe access around the machinery. Area 7, lubricant analysis, and Area 8, troubleshooting and root cause analysis, kind of self-explanatory there. Area 9 is the management of waste. That's kind of unique here, and energy conservation in Area 10. Area 11, the reclamation of used oil, for instance, and rags and end of life cycle stuff in here. And then Area 12, the management of the lube program itself. This is where continuous improvement comes in, the plan, do, check, act system I mentioned earlier. So there's a lot of information and detail in this standard. So a natural question at this point, as I've indicated a couple of times, can't I just Google for all this information and not buy the standard or even follow this standard? Well, maybe yes, maybe no. You certainly could do that, but you don't have to. I mean, we happen to think that retracing all these steps would not be the best use of your time and money, even though you can trust everything that you see on the internet, right? Because you can trust everything you read on the internet, right? Well, not really, but ICML is here to support you. So let yourself, this time, stand on the shoulders of giants. And the giants in this case are your colleagues from around the world who put all this together. They put it all in one place. They've done all the work for you. You don't have to go out there and reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do it alone. But frankly, you really can't just Google all this, because the ICML 55.1 is more than just a collection of best practices and topics to be addressed. Remember, this document is based on the experience and the knowledge and the know-how of the whole team of experts, and it's already structured to mimic the ISO 55001 document as a decision-making tool. So it's already greater than the sum of any parts that you might be able to glean off the internet. Think about it. If you don't know where to start and you don't know where to end, then how would you ever know that you've covered everything that you need to cover, putting together a framework for decision-making for a lubrication program? At least with the ICML 55.1, you've got starting and ending parameters already that you can work with, and it's structured for that comprehensive assessment and decision-making that leads to successful implementation. So I don't know about you, but even as a DIY, a do-it-yourself kind of guy, I fancy, the notion that I can do some stuff like that with home projects. And I like to keep Handyman magazine around. I got a subscription to it, and I've got some DIY project books that were published by them. And so it's nice to know that the information that I've got available to me for these projects has already been vetted by editors and experts, people who know way more than I do, and who know the things to look out for that I never would have thought of on my own. So in fact, if I thought, oh, I could just go Google all this, I'm going to wind up gravitating toward websites that collect and review and present pros and cons and comparison and contrast and all this information, because I think that I would be able to trust those websites more than just random samplings of information out there. And you know what would happen is I would wind up gravitating right toward the Handyman Magazine website anyway. Right? That's what's going to happen. So if you are out there trying to Google for best tips and practices from random places, you would eventually find this standard on the internet, on ICML's website, and you'd be like, hey, this is what I need. Everything's already in one place. Hey, it's that ICML 55.1 book Paul was telling me about, right? It's already what you're looking for. So don't spend your time Googling for all of it if you don't have to. So would you even use it? Well, I certainly hope so. You're in charge of optimizing a lubrication program. We wrote this book for you. So I tell you what, in actual practice, you never know who might benefit from having this. Asset planners, asset practitioners, any asset-rich business. And I've talked to certified MLA practitioners at conferences, and because I like talking and finding out what kinds of projects people do and how their certifications are benefiting them. And I specifically remember this one MLA 2 practitioner, I think he was tasked with developing a complete lubrication and oil analysis program from scratch. I mean, talk about pushing the edge of the envelope, because MLA 2 wasn't necessarily designed for that kind of scope, right? That's really what the newer MLE, Machinery Lubrication Engineer certification, is for. And that didn't roll out until 2019. So this standard, not to mention the MLE certification, they would have been very helpful to this guy had it been available at that time. So this standard, with the comprehensive instructions and the 12 areas, it really helps certified practitioners know that they're doing all they could possibly be doing to build or improve their comprehensive program. Now, remember I said there's instructions in the standard kind of toward the beginning of the book, and they explain the approach that you got to take to address all these areas properly in order to achieve success. So keep that in mind. Once ICML 55 has been fully implemented at your facility, your picture of world-class success is most likely going to be different from every other plant's picture of success, because every plant is unique. So this standard helps you define success. You've got to define it on your own, of course, because you got to establish what are your goals, what are good practices at my plant, what are the best practices going to be, and then how is ICML 55.1 meant to be applied to help establish these success levels, and in real life should best possible be the goal. You may be surprised going through this process. You may be surprised to discover that achieving maximum compliance in all 12 areas may not actually be what's best for your facility. So let's take a quick look at the process. Self-assessment. You analyze what is good at your plant right now, and you're going to do this for each of the 12 areas outlined in the standard, in the 55.1 standard. So you establish what's good through a self-assessment process. And then, with money being no object, you imagine what would be the best practices at your plant, your ideal dream program, right? Now you scale it back a little bit to consider the reality of your priorities and the business structure and the business model and the politics and the scarcity of resources. You can take all that into consideration, and you finally establish what is best possible. It lies somewhere in between what's good now and what the dream program would be. Now remember, these terms are subjective. They carry risk because ICML 55.1 is not a mind reader. This means, like I said before, you've got to do the work to assess your circumstances and identify your priorities and limitations while setting your goals, ideally as part of a larger organizational asset management program. So it may be that you and the boss's boss all have different ideas of what makes good, what makes best, and what is possible. Got to hammer that out on your own. So every area, like I said, gets its own plan. So now it's like a bunch of micro plans that are all part of one big plan. So ICML 55.1 enables you to define what good looks like and what best possible can look like in each area. And then each area's plan requires you to document specific tasks and actions for optimization, specify what are the responsibilities and authorities, what are the required skill levels of personnel, the enablers for each area, and define the means and timescales to implement. And this all gets you ready to use the 55.2 guideline when it rolls out. So there's a lot of preparation work that you can do now with 55.1. And of course, every plan's got to perform a balancing act of cost, risk, and performance through all phases of the lubrication life cycle. And that's defined on page 3 of the standard, which talks about the acquisition, the utilization, and maintenance, and disposal and renewal of various lubricated assets and supplies. If you've ever gone through the application process for one of our awards, the GIL or the Battle Awards, you understand that the application questions require you to collect and organize all your program information and data before you even fill out and submit the application, because it would be a meaningless submission without all the prep work that goes into it that forces you to organize and present your data in a persuasive manner, right? So developing each area's lubrication management plan here is very similar because it requires assessment and goal setting and prioritization before you ever start the implementation. And that's what plan is in Plan, Do, Check, Act on the next slide. And here it is. This is an integral component of the structure or the pattern that I keep talking about. In alignment with 55,001, this standard instructs you to establish, implement, and maintain a continuous improvement system in each of the 12 areas. So just like ISO, we employ the Plan, Do, Check, Act system here. It helps guide you from what is good to what is best possible in each of the 12 areas. Essentially, in each of the 12 areas, you start with high-level concepts, organizational objectives that lead to lubricated asset management objectives. And then you apply the ICML 55.1 process to develop and build your plan. And then you implement the plan with your enablers. And then you assess the plan's performance and evaluate against those organizational objectives and repeat. So each area, of course, despite all this time and effort and energy, each area is naturally vulnerable to failure if we don't have a continuous improvement process in place and stick with it. Makes them, the whole idea of a continuous improvement program is to make the areas not vulnerable. That's sustainability, right? So it's less important that every area be totally strong and successful. It is more important that you've evaluated your program piece by piece and then determined what your program is doing compared to benchmarks on the way to best possible status. So let's take some takeaways. Let's take some takeaways, shall we? There is no one size fits all solution. The ICML 55 is a framework that allows you to prepare for what's best possible for your facility. So again, this is not a dictatorial instruction manual. It is purposefully structured for you to apply a process to develop a bespoke plan for your facility. Preparation as a map, like a road map. You got to know where you are first and where you want to go before you can successfully fully apply the process so that you can define success in all 12 areas. That is very key here. Sustainability requires lots of things, technical expertise, managerial buy-in, and all that. But continuous improvement is vital. It's more important than solid and consistent activity across the board. Finally, standardized process. It eliminates guesswork. ICML 55.1 defines parameters from start to finish. So we believe that this standard's comprehensive content and structured framework combines to offer you exactly the support you need to finally stop picking random low-hanging fruit and start pursuing your objectives in an organized, orderly fashion. As a standard, it gets everyone on the same page so that you can achieve the best possible lubricated asset management program that is world-class for your organization. So I hope this presentation has helped you see and make sense of the valuable practical structure of ICML 55.1 requirement standard, which is available in English, Spanish, or Portuguese languages. And I hope you're inspired to use the standard fully to organize your program and establish and reach the best possible goals for your asset-rich facility. For ICML, I'm Paul Hiller. And remember, get certified, stay certified. Oh yeah.